this it's sort of like a catch-22 situation. You got all this data, how people are skeptical of big pharma. They're right to be. I think there's loads of issues about big pharma, how modern medicine is done, especially in terms of profit making. People are skeptical of governments. They're right to be. Governments. People are skeptical of mainstream media as well. People are skeptical of government messages. But it's a fine balance in the sense that we can't force people. There's a civil liberties argument, which is a very strong argument, especially in this country where these are hard, the hard-won rights, the autonomy of the body. So I just want to explain. So our legal system is based on the common law system. The common law system is about the protection of property and transference of property. So a person's body is their property. So the law protects the property. Hence, you have laws against common assault. The threat of violence is a criminal act, not just violence itself. So you have to respect people's autonomy, etc. And it's so how do we preserve our civil liberties without forcing people to take the vaccine? If someone says, I don't want to take it, do we respect that? Because it's an interesting political question. You're there to uphold people's rights, even if you think they're wrong. Like we don't drink alcohol, but if someone wants to drink alcohol, we're not going to go around smashing the bottles. There's tolerance. You tolerate. You don't have to respect it. The difference between tolerance and respect. You could profoundly disagree with someone or their actions, but you tolerate it. You don't mean that you just go and stop them from doing it. You tolerate it. Do you think we should have as a health, like me as someone in politics, I have to tolerate a lot of stuff, including members of my own party or fellow councillors, for example, or the dear leader in Tower Hamlets. But that's a separate video. But what I'm saying is, it must be a difficult question as a health professional, in the sense that there'll be a whole group of people who just don't believe in vaccination for religious reasons. For example, there are well-known cases of Jehovah's Witnesses. They don't take blood transfusions. Last time I checked, they don't take blood transfusions. They don't believe in transplants as well. I've come across members in the Muslim community who don't believe in transplants as well. So hypothetically, and again, I'm just using hypothetical. It's not, just as a thought experiment. Just imagine we need to tolerate people's, if someone's religious belief is, say, a Jehovah's Witness. Just using that as an example, I don't know whether that's their theological view or not. So my religious opinion is, I don't want to take the vaccine. What do you do? What do we do? My gut instinct is we have to tolerate it. We have to respect. We have to tolerate that view, because that's what we're about.
So I think the issue here is that no one wants to mandate. No one wants to force. And we shouldn't want to force. We need to, as you suggested, we are a society that's based upon persuasion, discussion, and should have a transparent means of reaching a decision. Historically, compelling people to take vaccinations has been counterproductive. And it doesn't encourage people to trust a system that's there. It will create communities and dynamics that will mean that people will not engage with healthcare. So it's not in the interests of healthcare services to push for the mandating of a vaccine. But at the same time, I think all of us need to realize that any one of us could potentially be the cause of another becoming unwell. And that in that kind of situation, we then have a responsibility as individuals to one another to protect one another's health. But the vaccine itself is not a treatment. It's an attempt at preventing people becoming unwell.
Yeah.
And although it is safe, and although it has been extensively followed up on at least 40,000 people for the number of months that this virus has been around, it still has side effects. So how can I, with all conscience, go and force someone else to have a vaccination which is incredibly safe but has risks to it? And these are risks of swelling at the site of an injection, fever, feeling unwell, but for a short period of time. How could I force someone to have that when that goes against everything that I have encouraged other people to do during my life?
I totally agree. My thing is, it's all about persuasion. That's what it is. We have to win the battle of the argument. If you're having to force someone to do that, means you failed in your argument. You need to, and my thing is, you need to go back and brush up on your arguments.
Absolutely.
That's what it is.
Absolutely.
And we shouldn't call people. We shouldn't be intolerant towards people who don't want to take it. That's my personal thing. I'm not going to call you. We just need to persuade them. Say, look, what is your concern?
I think we need to persuade people. We need to be able to
address people's concerns.
To relate to people.
Not call them out. Not call them out.
But at the same time, we need to make decisions based upon what is actually the case. We need to extricate ourselves from a disempowering conspiratorial mindset or conspiracy theory mindset.
No, I totally agree with that. But then there is a powerful. I totally agree. But then, if someone's made their mind up, conspiracy theories are like religious beliefs. Let me just explain what I mean. It's based on an assumption. The conspiracy theory is based on assumption, and then you have logic. A logic developed from that assumption. Now the assumption could be completely wrong, not based on facts, but then you have a logic to it which is based on facts. That's what it is. That's what it is. Someone's made their mind up on an assumption. No matter what contrary evidence you give, because it's based on an assumption, it's not going to shift. So unless they have a paradigm shift kind of issue on that basic assumption.
So it's something you cannot negate, right?
No.
You know that if we have an idea and you want to check whether it's right or wrong, you test it. With a conspiracy, it's something that can never be tested because there will always be something else that comes in.
Yes, and it's part of a wider malaise in society about people being disempowered in society. That's what it is. That's my thing, in the sense that it's just the people who are involved who talk about conspiracy theories in my experience, are people who are at the bottom of the socioeconomic You don't get that. You don't get conspiracy theories when people are having wine and crackers, and cheese, fine cheese. There isn't. They talk about house prices. Yeah, house prices, holiday in Antigua, and some random theater play or some art gallery thing. That's my experience. Anyway, I could be wrong. I could be prejudiced. Probably not all people at these parties talk like that, but that's my experience. But when you go to people who got it hard, say for example taxi drivers or lorry drivers or delivery drivers, the conversations are different, and that's my experience, and it's to do with disempowerment. But my thing is we need to give the information, we need to persuade people, but we shouldn't be intolerant if they disagree with us. I don't know. What do you think?
No, absolutely.
We shouldn't call them stupid. I feel we shouldn't call them stupid or
violent
society or the enemy or anything like that. And I know some of my colleagues and they always blame everything on people's behaviors, even their own incompetence, but that's a separate thing. But it's always someone else's fault. But what it is, that's my take on it, because I personally, it's a civil liberty. I don't have the answers, but I feel very uncomfortable not respecting someone's wishes if they have a deep held conviction in that.
I agree. No one should be compelled in this. There has to be open debate. There has to be access to this information available to all members of society, and all individuals have to feel welcome to that forum where they can exchange this view. But what we need is an exchange of views based upon the facts as we know them. And we really need to free ourselves from the chains of various conspiracies that are going around.
No, definitely.
And the violence of sentiment that underlies both the ridiculing of anyone who might oppose or reject a vaccination, or the sense that anyone suggesting that you should get a vaccination is in the pay of everyone else. And both of those positions suggest an uncertainty on the part of the individual who's being violent, who's casting out the other, because they are not sure of the ground that they're on.
It's a tough one. It's a tough one because I remember watching this black and white movie. It's a British movie. Again, it's a guy's daughter needed a medical treatment, but his religious beliefs didn't allow it, and then his daughter died, and the guy was prosecuted in the courts. But he came across sympathetic, the film director, and he made the analogy of, Abraham, sacrificing, and this is, etc. But so I think it is. I think we just need to be tolerant, and we just have to persuade people. And what it is if anybody has any questions, etc., you could field them to me, and I could field them to Umar, and then field back.